interesting to have a conversation with you. We've had a lot of, you and I, since you came on and started working with us and stuff, you and I have had a lot of, I think, good conversations from talking about, for example, the video sales letter, stuff like that, and bouncing ideas back and forth, and sort of that process that we went through was definitely refreshing for me to have another person with a marketing background.
Dude, I think it definitely helps when you have somebody else who understands the language of like how to speak marketing, because you can bounce ideas off and it can be a lot more collaborative that way too.
Right. Well, and there's a lot of tools and stuff I find that or a lot of tools that I've used before, but then after focusing so much on running the business and everything that I just don't even think about anymore. There's a lot of steps in those processes that
Definitely.
Like I said, it's been nice having you around, buddy.
I appreciate that, man. It's nice being around,
Yeah.
I think one thing I do want to talk about is that you mentioned earlier is that, once you start creating content at a different caliber, you start realizing that like you can't kind of go back to the old caliber of how you were doing things,
Yeah. I guess to set the stage on that, I was talking to Jesus while I was editing a TikTok video, and I was just saying it takes a lot longer now because there's so many different steps that had I skipped them before, I would have been fine with it. Mm-hmm. But now it would drive me nuts.
Dude, 100%, 100%. And I think once, like you said, once you start doing things at a certain caliber, like it's very hard for you to go back because you're just like, you hold yourself to that standard.
Right.
Well,
I look at some of the videos that we did that me and Mario did when we first partnered up, or even before we partnered up when I was his client. And we were so proud of those videos.
Yeah.
And I look back on them and I just cringe.
Hey man, that's all part of the growth process.
I can't believe I put that out, let alone I was so happy with it.
Yeah, definitely. But dude, I think it's like anything though. Once you're, like I said, once you get kind of going, you understand like how you start bettering the process. But you guys were doing the best that you could,
Oh yeah. Like I said, we were definitely proud of what we did. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't because we worked so hard. I thought it was good. But then your eye definitely changes over time, and you start noticing a lot of these things that you didn't notice necessarily before.
So what do you think has allowed you guys to create more impactful content, right? Because I think it's one thing to like make it look prettier, right? But I know coming from a marketing background, you understand that if something doesn't convert, it doesn't really matter.
Absolutely. One of the big things, so this is a couple of years ago, Mario came to me and said, hey, on our weekly team meetings, I want you to start training the video editors and the graphic designers on different things from a marketing perspective. And I'd like to say that it was genius, but it was actually more laziness that I said, instead of doing that, why don't we take turns on the team? There's about 12 of them or so. Mm-hmm. Why don't we have each one each week come to the meeting so there'll be assignment with something to teach the group, yep. Right? So making them do a little bit of research and stuff. Like I said, I'd like to say it was genius. It was actually probably more laziness, but that was the pivotal moment. I feel like when things started dramatically improving, mm-hmm. And originally I thought, well, it's going to help the editors learn stuff, but there's a lot of stuff where it was just light bulbs went off in my mind. Dude, about different things that we could do too.
It's funny because I think like what I've noticed from teaching the editing teams in the Philippines and Mexico is that as you're teaching, like you're also learning more about the subject. So it's actually beautiful to like teach others what it is that because in a way you're kind of reinforcing that and you're getting better at it yourself too.
You're 100% right, and that's something going back to when I was in high school in wrestling. Our coaches would encourage us to go and help coach and stuff at the junior highs, and they said because the best way to learn something and become a master of it is to teach someone else. And
Amen. Amen.
It was true then, and it's true now. Mm-hmm. But
so for someone who's like starting off, like let's say on TikTok, right? Because you're live on TikTok right now. What are 3 tips that they need to be able to create content that's going to convert?
Well, first they just need to start doing it. Do something, right? But then it comes down to initially creating value, right? And you can create value by either being educational, inspirational, entertaining. And if you can hit more than one of those things, then you're set up for success. Mm-hmm. the next thing from a video creation perspective is to cut all the fat out of the damn video.
Oh man, that's so important right there. You do have to trim the fat.
I mean, the attention span of people is so low right now.
Yep.
It's the lowest it's ever been in the history of mankind. And these apps where you can just scroll, right? If something doesn't grab your attention
right away
and then hold it, and then I guess the last would just be to make sure that you're staying in your niche. Whoever your target is, stay to that niche. Don't post one video where it's 3 tips about how you could do whatever, right?
Right.
And then the next video is your dog running through your living room, right?
yeah, of course, man.
It confuses the algorithm. It also is going to get people to follow you and who don't fit within that demographic.
I think to kind of expand upon that too, I think what's really important for people to understand who are just making content, right, is it's one thing to just make content, to be intentional with the content that you're making. So if you're intentional with the audience you're speaking to and you know who it is you're speaking to, everything doesn't have to be salesy, right? But you can kind of figure out how to hit their pain points a little bit more. And that's important because you understand who you're talking to, you understand their pain, and you kind of work backwards from that pain.
You're absolutely right. And I think especially on social, everything shouldn't be salesy, right? No. You need to focus initially on reciprocity and giving information, giving things back, and then the people will come. That way, when you have a sales piece, something with a call to action,
it's more effective.
It's more effective. You have the right people watching it, and people already know, like, and trust you.
Exactly, man. I think I look at social media as like a follow-up system, right? And the more touches you can have on someone, right, the more follow-ups you can have, the more likely you are to close. So when you do ask for the sale, it's an automatic yes because they like, trust, and know you.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. There's a video with Alex Hormozi where he was saying, did I pronounce his name right?
Yeah, okay. I'm pretty sure.
But he was saying, social media is dead. It's just media, right? And it made me think about it a lot because you think about the old form of short form content, the old form of short form video. It's commercials, right? That's all there is. And so really what it comes down to is now on social media, you can get your message on TikTok, on Instagram Reels, on YouTube Shorts. You can get your short form video that you recorded on your phone in front of thousands or millions of people. It's the reach that you have is absolutely incredible.
Especially with TikTok, man, because we have a client who actually just got 1 million views on his video, and we posted that same video on Instagram, and I think it got, I don't know, like 20K, 15K views, but it got 1 million views. That's on insane. TikTok. And not just that, but like it's beyond the views. He got I think he probably got like 500 people to actually apply for more information for his program. And I'm like, dude, that's conversions right there. And then if you do the numbers and kind of run it backwards, you're like, okay, if even like 5 people, right, or 10 people or whatever it is, hopefully 100 people or more, close from that one video, it's like it makes sense to spend time creating videos because you don't know if one video is going to make 1 million views and make you a shit ton of money.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And I think my biggest video got a couple 100,000 views, right? But it wasn't anything special. I was actually feeling pretty shitty that day. I came in, I had gotten a disagreement with Mario, my business partner, and then he went out and I said, I got to make my video real quick, made it, and that one did better than anything.
Dude, it's so funny you say that because I think that when we're not feeling it for some reason, those are the videos that get the most views, and it's so interesting because I think we don't really know. That's why it's so important to test and create so much different content, because you really don't know what video is going to hit unless you have the reps in. You're not going to know.
Well, and it's I think it's important to, when you have a success or a failure on a piece of content, to learn from it. And just take, all right, what worked? Why didn't this work? Maybe I should try it again and see, because sometimes it's just there's some luck and timing and stuff like that, right?
Dude, I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. And there's different aspects of a video, right? There's the hook, there's the meat of the video, there's the call to action, and tone. Sometimes the tone, right? The delivery, the if there's current events going on, like you're talking about current events or whatever, like it really is like you got to be at the right place at the right time and like delivering the right content. And if you can kind of dial that formula in, you'll find results.
Well, and I think what it comes down to is as opposed to trying to always predict it, right? You're never going to always predict it, and so the way that you get around that is by volume as well. Yep. Right? Making sure that you're consistently posting across multiple platforms.
So that video that got 1 million views for our client, we didn't know it was going to do that. Like we had a feeling like some of the content was going to perform pretty well, but the ones that we thought were going to perform extremely well didn't perform as well as we were thinking. And that one video, man, like it just struck a nerve in that audience, and it got 1 million views. That's
and
crazy.
right out of the gates from posting
No,
it?
man.
Was there a delayed response?
There was a delayed response. So I think it ended up getting like 15,000 views, right? Initially, and we were like, oh, okay, that's cool. For TikTok,
whatever.
That's awesome. And then I think another week or two went by, and it ended up hitting like 100,000 and 200,000 views. And we were like, yo, this is crazy. Like, we had something similar happen with him on Facebook too, but like with TikTok, like, and all these different platforms, you just never really know when it's going to catch fire on the algorithm. And that's something that's really important to understand, is that instead of someone being self-conscious and maybe taking down the content because they're like, oh, it's this isn't performing, I look stupid, whatever. It's like, no, you don't know if a video that you posted like 2 months ago is going to somehow hit the explore page,
right? Because
people are consuming it now and it's relevant and timely and it's relevant now, but it's like, you just have no idea, man.
You never know. And supposedly what all the so-called TikTok experts are saying is that more and more your older content is being seen. Like, it used to just be like the first 48 hours.
Yep.
But more and more you're seeing older content re-show up and everything like that. And I've definitely noticed that when I go to my notifications, right, and see who's liked and who's commented and all that crap, it's not just on my new videos, which it did used to be. It used to always be just, like I said, first couple days, unless something was really, really rocketing, then it might go for a couple weeks.
Yeah, man. I think timing is very important. I think timing, it's something that's important for a lot of different things, right? Like, you can say the right thing at the wrong time, and it's not gonna hit.
Right? Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, man. But dude, I think what I really want to discuss too in regards to content, right, is I think a lot of people aren't very confident on camera, right? And I think it's something that's awkward for anyone who's starting off. Mm-hmm. What for you, because I know you're good on camera, man. Like, what have you done or what have you observed for other people to improve their camera skills or gain that confidence on camera? Yeah,
it's interesting because I haven't always been that way. I actually used to be very self-conscious about being on camera and being and my voice being heard, right? Mm. And so one thing that I did was I started looking at people who I really admired how they spoke and how they presented themselves, and I would just try to find little things and then start implementing those little things and copying them more or less.
Yeah.
One of the things that I started with was in my speech pattern, right? So I don't have a whole bunch of inflection in my voice, fairly monotone, and which is where some of the insecurity came from. But I noticed that another guy who worked for our company, his name was Ramon Ray, he's a professional speaker. I did a webinar with him, and I noticed he was speeding up in certain places and then slowing way down too.
Yes.
And I was just like, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I know my content, I can speed it up and slow it down. And so that was one of those things that I started doing, and then it comes down to also observe, being critical of yourself to a certain degree in your videos and recording, saying, I shouldn't stand like that. I shouldn't have the camera at that angle. I shouldn't,
right.
All these different little things that the only way you know is by doing them.
I think what you said too about speeding up or slowing down or getting louder and then getting quieter, like there are things that kind of interrupt because we're so used to hearing people speak like just normally, right? We're having a conversation, whatever. But what these speakers do when they're on stage is they really like convey emotion, right. And they use pauses and they use different things. They get louder, to emphasize certain words. They get quieter to like get your attention and reel you in. And I think those kind of speaking patterns are really important for someone who's starting off in this field, right? To understand, like, hey, like you said, observe someone who's like doing what it is that you want to do.
Yeah.
And then pick up, like, do what they do and say what they say, and you'll get what they get, right? You can't copy them word for word, but it's like, like you said, you pulled little tidbits of it, which is cool.
Right. And that was one of the reasons I started doing stand-up comedy, was because I felt like that would sharpen my skills. Specifically, that are one, it's fun to do, but the other, it would sharpen those skills that I need for for my job, for my business, right?
Dude, so I do the same thing with voice memos. Like I usually respond to people via voice memos, and it's because of that same reason where I'm like, I understand that me sending a voice message is actually me more practice, giving me more practice on how to speak, so that when I am on camera or if I am up on stage, I have a better delivery with my messages because I'm getting so many reps in. And then think about it,
Yeah.
if you're sending like, let's say 10 voice messages a day, 30 days, that's 300 times you're exercising your voice, right? Of like how to speak and how to communicate. And that over the span of a year is going to make a huge difference in how you deliver your message.
You're absolutely right. And you look at like a mutual friend of ours, Dom Fawcett, right? If you've ever had extensive text message threads with him, you notice a lot of them, he pulls his phone out and responds with a video.
Yep.
And it's because, and he talks about it, it's just because it's those constant reps of seeing what you like about yourself and what you don't.
Yep. Exactly, man. And I think like I said, it's just coaching. You're coaching yourself on how to get better. And I think so many people are conscious of like, because it's not a normal thing, right? You're looking in, like if we're having a conversation, that's normal because you talk to people, you look them in the eye, whatever.
Right.
You're looking straight into a camera, you're trying to film something, it's completely different.
Completely different ballgame.
It's awkward. It's awkward when you first get started. So it's so important to just like get that practice in and say, hey, I'm going to dedicate myself to making 20 pieces of content every single month or whatever's manageable, right? 10 pieces, 15 pieces, whatever. So that way people can just get the practice in. And I think that if people approach content like that in the beginning, they'd have better results because they're not going to burn themselves out and be like, why am I not getting this or that? It's like, no, I'm in this so I can get the reps of what this is going to be. And then this is going to lead me to the result that I'm looking for.
You're absolutely right. And I think it's also recognizing what you're good at and what maybe you're not.
Yep.
Right. Like I know when I'm just like you said, when in front of a camera, then the marbles will get in the mouth a little bit. Right. And so what I do when I record a lot of my short form content is I record it in several clips.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, you've seen me doing it around here. I'm trimming the fat off of them and put them together.
And
then,
most videos that you actually see on YouTube, like these YouTube videos, that's how they do it. They don't record.
I know.
They don't record the whole thing all the way through. I think people have that understanding of like, dang, this person's so good on camera. But if you notice, like, really pay attention to like the video and just keep watching, and you'll notice that they're like shifting a little bit after this, or they're shifting a little bit after that, or like, because there's cuts in there that make it easier for them, but also they're probably reading from a teleprompter, which makes it a lot easier, right? But I think you got to get that practice in, like I was saying.
One of our clients has about they got a few different. They've got like 5 different YouTube channels, but they probably have between 10 and 12 million total subscribers across their channels. And when they send, and we edit their videos, and when they send in for a 10-minute video, sometimes it's 100 clips.
Yep.
I mean, it's nuts how much it is.
Yep.
And yeah.
I think especially from a content creator standpoint too, right? People see this like 15 second, 20 second, 30 second, and you'll understand this, right? Because we've done work for you guys, and we're also like doing other work for other clients. But it's like, I think people have this misconception of like, they see the final result and they're like, oh, that looks awesome. That's so pretty.
Easy.
But it's, and that looks easy, right? Or, oh, that camera's so nice. Like we've talked about that. It's like when someone says like, oh, that camera's so nice. I'm like, you have no idea that like without me understanding these functions of like how this shit works, this camera isn't worth shit.
Yeah. This is a paperweight.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to use the damn thing.
It's garbage, like won't do anything for you. But there's so many steps involved to like you said, right? It's a freaking 10-minute YouTube video. There's probably a pre-planning. There's all these
tons.
shooting.
Yeah.
There's all these takes. Someone's got to go through and edit all that footage. So when someone sees a commercial, right, on whether it's like social media or whether it's television, there's a lot of work that goes into a 30-second commercial.
Right.
I think that's something for people who are not in the business and also in the business to understand is like, hey, know the value of kind of what that service is.
It's funny with that same client, when people hear about what they do and how much they make on that, they're just like, oh, are you kidding? For recording videos with their kids? You have no idea. Those kids work harder than you do, for one.
Yep.
And the family, like these guys are always working.
They're dedicated, man.
Their life is work now, right?
Yep.
But I mean, they also have opportunities that very few people will because of that as well.
I think what's cool about that too, man, is that when people integrate like what they like to do into their work, or they integrate like a lifestyle into their work, that's a great way to work, where it's like, yes, are you putting in 60, 50, 70 hour weeks sometimes, but it's like, you're living a life that most people aren't actually like living, right? So it's like, yeah, like it just makes sense in my opinion.
Right,
you know?
right.
You design like the love of work or the love of whatever it is you do for your process into the work so that it doesn't feel like work.
There's no doubt that, I mean, the way I feel as far as, running a business, there's nothing more frustrating, but there's also nothing more satisfying.
Oh, 100%.
Than building and running.
And it's funny, man. Like a lot of people say, like there's this entrepreneur meme that goes out. It's like, I'd rather work 70 hours for myself than 40 hours a week for somebody else. And it's like, I think the reason behind that is because it's ownership. It's your own thing. It's your own creation, and even if you are in business with somebody else or whatever that looks like it's just the pride of ownership you have, like owning your own business, even if you are making less money in the beginning, it's worth it because you have unlimited leverage, right, of where the thing can go if you're building it the right way. But at the same time, it's like it's just something special, right? Like
right.
you're just more invested, and you're willing to put up with so much more shit than you would at a corporate job because it's your thing.
Right. When Mario approached me about partnering, so I had done some consulting work for him for his other business. That's how we met initially, and then when I was at another company, knowing that he had the studio, I hired him he was a buddy at that point too.
Yeah.
Hired him to do the work. And when he approached me about it, he said, I said, well, I'm just not sure if I'm ready for that. I don't have piles of money in the bank because, to get me into it and stuff. And he said, well, and if you're waiting for that, it's probably not going to happen. Mm-hmm. He said, you've made a lot of money for other people and to build their dreams. And, what are you doing for yourself? And like, that resonated with me.
Dude, and that's I'm glad he brought that up to your attention, man, because I think a lot of people spend so much time pouring into a job, right? Pouring into somebody else's system that, you were probably amazing at what you did, but it's like there's only so much you can do because you're capped because it's somebody else's company.
Right.
And even if you were to, blow it out of the park and maybe become CEO someday or whatever, you still don't have the benefits of ownership, right? You don't have the benefits of like, if it sells, right, you cash out and you have a pretty penny.
Yeah. It's exactly right. Where and it also, there's something about building these things from the ground up, and seeing that progress and seeing, you look at what we have down in Mexico, right? You've been down there,
yeah,
and seeing the lives that's impacting as well.
Absolutely.
And especially with part of our investment into the school and with different things like that. It's helping a community financially, but it's also like the kids and everything. Like I said, it's a special place.
It's cool, man. Like I think building with impact is so important. I think when you're giving back and you're helping people, like because a business, that's what the purpose of a business is. It's not to make money. Like yes, you need to be profitable and make money, but it's to provide value to other people, to other human beings. Yeah. So when you can do that like intentionally, you're like, hey, I'm going to help impact these different lives. You just build a different kind of business because you're building it with intention. I think that word intention is something that a lot of people need to like understand, because when you're doing anything with intention, like could you just do it to do it, right? Like
right,
yeah.
Obviously.
But it doesn't require too much more effort for you to do things with intention, and you get a much, much better result. And it can be a tenfold result based, instead of like hey, I'm just getting a so-so result.
Right. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Doing things with purpose, right?
Absolutely.
And the impact you and then also impact others, your employees, your clients, everyone.
I think one thing too, man, is like entrepreneurship is a growth stimulant, in my opinion. And I think it causes you to confront yourself and be like, hey, why is this not growing? And a lot of times I think a business doesn't grow because of us, right? Because of us as owners. And it's like we have to look in the mirror and be like, hey, what is going on, right? Like what kind of leader do I need to be, or what skills do I need to have, or how do I need to bring this team together, or whatever it is. Or, there's just so many growth opportunities that happen where we can reflect. And I think it's the ultimate growth catalyst for that reason, because we start to understand these different parts of ourselves that like most people don't get the experience because... And let's face it, most people when they're at a corporate job, they're just coasting and they're comfortable. And if they're making enough money, they're whatever. But it's like every new level of entrepreneurship requires a new level of you. So
that's a good way to put it.
As you're going through, you're hitting friction, you're hitting tension. So it's like either that tension is going to keep you down, or it's gonna build you up stronger. So where you get to that next level, you're prepared and qualified to lead your company in the way that you need to lead those people.
That was insightful.
man. Sometimes I'm talking, but it's not me talking, bro, if that makes sense, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's been, so since kind of going out on your own, you worked with a lot of, you've done a ton of video work, ton of marketing work, ton of strategy work. What's, I guess, the biggest kind of aha moment that you've had along the way, whether it's a skill or just a learning experience?
I think the biggest skill that I've picked up, and the biggest thing that I've picked up, man, is the art of storytelling, and for you to be able to tell a story with your videos, right?
Yeah.
And specifically marketing content, right? I was reading this book that I just finished recently, actually. I can't remember the name of it for some reason, but it talks about how if like Michelangelo was alive today, he'd be in the business of like advertising and marketing, right? Because it's
Right.
like it's an art.
Yeah.
And when you're making commercials and you're making this stuff and you're telling stories, you really do have a chance to influence culture. And it's a beautiful thing because everything that we consume, all the media, is shaping our lives, you know? And I think that's a very there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. And
Absolutely.
I think, again, going back to the whole thing, is that I learned that through telling stories and really understanding people, you can get people to do certain things, right? Which is cool because if you own a business, you have to understand how to relate to your consumer, you know? And I launched an e-commerce company, and what was crazy about that is I made my year's salary in a month with that company because I was able to tell a story with the brand, and the brand was able to connect so much with the consumers that like my other competitor who was selling the same exact product, I was actually selling it for 3 times more. I found out later because they wanted me to consult for them that I did 5 times the revenue that they were doing in my first month when they were in business for 2 years. And that it just like consumers were like raving fans, man. It was the coolest, like that literally has been the coolest experience of my life, to see something that was not alive before, like come to fruition, and for people to get so behind a brand that they're like excited for whatever's coming. Like any piece of like photo content, video content, product line, whatever they were about to drop, like people were just super excited, man. There's a lot of lessons that I learned from that too, you know? So I'm very grateful because it taught me a lot of different things, even though the company itself didn't work out and like things kind of, went down the drain or whatever. But it's like, I just learned the potential of like what's possible with the online world. And I think that's something, if I'm like looking back on this whole experience of like the last 7 years of me being an entrepreneur, it's like if you have the right message for the right audience at the right time, and you're giving them something that they really care about, like your potential there's no cap on what you can do.
There's absolutely no cap on
insane,
that.
man. Like you can build a business online, whether it's a info product coaching business or whether it's a physical goods business. Like telling stories is the foundation of how these companies grow. You know, because if you look at any sort of recognized brand, there's a reason why people buy from that brand, and it's usually because of the story, the foundational story that people tell themselves about who they are, right? Because of the brand that they're consuming.
Right. No, yeah, you're absolutely right. The art of basically telling the story, but also telling your story and intermingling that with your customer or client's story.
Yep.
Right. And how the two work together it's a powerful thing, and it's definitely, like you said, it's an art, right? It's not as easy as everyone thinks.
Dude, there's so much intention that people don't understand when it comes to branding, even from the product design itself, right? Like the way that a Lamborghini is designed and the way that it's built, it's completely different from obviously like how a Toyota Camry is built or whatever. But there's so much intention that goes into how they market those products and how they do what they do, that the product itself tells a story. And it tells a story to the consumer that wants to buy it, because Lamborghini doesn't they don't actually run TV ads, they don't run paid commercials. Right. Because their whole thing is that a person who's going to buy this car isn't sitting around watching a commercial. They're influencing culture. So the product itself is made and designed for someone to feel like that version of themselves that they want to be. And I think when we can understand that end result that people are looking for and build it into the product design of like what it is we're doing, whether it's here with this podcasting stuff or whether it's the social media stuff, we can understand the end result of what it is. We design the product backwards, and it's tailor made to get them to the result. Because I think that's why people buy stuff, man, is they want to feel something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, man. But dude, this has been a great podcast episode, Jimmy.
Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap it up and
yes, sir.
Call it a day.
Pleasure
Appreciate
as always.
It, man.
Absolutely.